going to kick us off. We're super excited for another Shift Happens podcast, and we're jacked to have Christina Holt as a seasoned digital strategist with over 25 years experience as an executive level growth advisor. You don't look like you have 25 years experience.
Oh, I have an almost 30-year-old daughter, so we'll leave it at that.
And if I get in trouble for that,
Thank you.
File a complaint to HR,
that,
which would go to me, by the way.
That reaction
I don't see that complaint going very far.
I was going to say, I get that reaction when I tell people I have a 30-year-old daughter, and that reaction is the nicest thing she's ever done for me.
Outstanding. Oh, good. And you specialize in digital product strategy, helping companies drive broad adoption of their technology and achieve sustainable, profitable growth. And you're known for delivering adoption plans that tackle industry resistance, operational around products, and building data-driven user product-focused teams. And you got a bunch of other super impressive stuff.
There's a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, they sent me that request about 15 minutes ago. So I said, take this, edit it down. So if you want to, ad lib and cut it back, you won't hurt my feelings.
No problem. All right, so let's get into it. So it's you've got a tremendous amount of experience and expertise, and you're really helping companies with their tech strategy and developing a tech stack, right? However, there's no, I'm a small business owner. I'm getting bombarded with every 10 minutes, I get an email coming in with a new software tool, so give me like a high level, what should I be looking at and what's most important?
Sure. So I think the first thing to consider is that you built your business providing a valuable service to a specific audience, and you're gonna be drowning in ads for AI driven tools and every system under the sun. But as the business owner, it's your job to define and visualize what your future state is going to look like before you make an investment. This is so important because what I find especially in the small to mid-sized business space, it's that lack of visualization that gets people in trouble, because they see an ad, they see a fancy screen,
they see a shiny new toy,
exactly,
without having a strategy behind it.
Yep. And so a lot of times we talk about the why, like, and it could be, I want to exit, I want to create an ancillary revenue stream, I want to pull cost out of my organization. But when it comes to investing in technology, just having the why is not enough. You have to have a definition, a vision of what that's going to look like and what it means to you as the business owner, what it means to your team, what it means to the business. You don't have to define the what yet, but you have to have some kind of vision, because that's going to guide your decision-making process as you evaluate, do I buy something?
Look,
do I
this is
build
our current
something?
state I want to be. This is our future state. This is where I want to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then have that overall vision, and then figure out, okay, how am I going to get there? And this is where you come in and say, these are the tools that can help you get there.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Christina, how do you go about, for somebody and a small business owner, how do you go about creating that vision? Because I think a lot of small business owners have that jumbled in their head somehow, but really haven't, let's just call it, put it down on paper yet.
Yeah, for sure.
What is like a simple exercise that most small business owners can take so that if they come across somebody like you, they can paint the picture accurately and give them guidance behind that? What do they do?
Sure. So the answer is not sexy and exciting. And if you're a business owner that's, 20, 30 years into a successful services company, you're not going to like this answer, but this is the answer. It's customer discovery all over again, right? It's we're going to make this investment and we need to validate that it's solving a pain point for a specific audience. And it's a pain point that people are going to be willing to pay to maybe use a product in order to solve. Or in some cases, I have clients that build out some type of product that is offered for free, because the adoption of that new product has such a positive impact on the organization, on the operation, right? There's so much efficiency gained that it's worth it to just build it and offer it for free. But 9 out of 10 times, the more successful you are with an existing business, the bigger your blind spot when it comes to technology, because you assume you've already hit the ball out of the park, and your life is good and cash flow is great. And my CPA saying, oh, you should, invest in something that's capitalizable and it will reduce your, taxable income, and all these things, all these advisors are telling you to do. But you really have to go back out and do customer discovery and talk to people and find out what their biggest pain is and how to solve it.
And you
And
also have to constantly innovate the technology, right? Because what's working now
absolutely,
might not
absolutely.
3 years from now, 5 years from now, that may be obsolete.
Yeah, yeah. I like to say, the baby needs new shoes, the baby needs to go to college, right? So when you
Right.
build a product, that product is going to grow and it's going to change as the world changes and as the users of that product change. And so it's an ongoing commitment, right, for it to really fulfill its promise. And that requires a lot of different skills, but it really starts with block and tackle customer discovery, and really in-depth customer discovery, because the market is flooded, as you can see, with digital products, right? There's
Mhm.
more than we can count. And that's true of every industry. So your idea has to really be innovative, it has to be creative, and it has to be something that is going to be, really helpful, or it
So
won't get used.
yeah, and I'm interested in this. You bring up a really good topic. People ask me all the time. I've spent a lot of time obviously networking, so I've got a lot of really good
Hmm.
connections. I can make some wise choices and at least or some suggestions in guiding people into like, first conversations to get them on the path. But like I've sort of organically done this, but not without as much thought as you just brought up, and that is in before I make suggestions on who to connect you with, right? Like paint me the picture of what
Yeah,
exactly you're
yeah,
looking for because there's a million people that can help you out, but I got to find the right one for you. So what
yeah,
you're really saying is like, look, before you start finding the technology or people to help you with that technology, really go ahead and do some thought in the beginning and
yep.
ask these hard questions so that you get the right answers. And then you can give those answers to somebody like yourself that can bring it to fruition. Is that correct?
Yes, that is absolutely correct. I mean, I
Well,
got a call yesterday from a software development company that literally they built something for a client that had no go-to-market strategy, no commercialization strategy, didn't even know how to price the damn thing, right?
yeah.
And
Wow.
so they sink a couple $100,000 into something and it just sits there, right? Because they didn't, and sometimes, to be fair, that's okay. Sometimes you can build something and throw it out into the market and iterate quickly, and make it better and grow it that way. But most of the time, you need some semblance of a
You
of
need a
an un
go-to-market strategy.
yeah, you really need to know what you're going to do with it. Or you're spending a lot of money and potentially going to end up rewriting or reconfiguring something. So
And we'll hit a pause here for a second because I think this applies. Obviously, Christina's very good at what she does in her specific core competency, but I think the general theme of this applies to like everybody and in every aspect of small business world. And that is this, right? Like ask the right questions, you get the right answers.
yeah, yeah,
And like for what Christina is saying is let's even take the option of going back to your own market and finding why people stayed with you, why people selected you, why people left you, so on and so forth. And when you get those answers, then Christina can say, well, we need to fill the gaps or make it better by implementing these types of things. But without the front work, what technology do you need? Like, I'm not
yeah,
sure. I have no clue. We have to find out what we're solving for first, correct?
yeah, Yeah, yeah. And everybody has a solution for you. I mean, you could, it's crazy. We'll run, lunch and learns and give sessions on AI, especially in the SMB space. And everyone's like, should I be investing in AI? And I'm like, it's not even the right question, right? Like this is, what does your business need today?
Right.
What do
So
you
the
want as a
strategy
business
has
owner?
to
Yeah,
drive the technology, not the other way around.
absolutely. But I think the big, when I talk about the visioning, right? Like, that exercise, one of the biggest challenges and this is not unique to small businesses. I want to be very clear to people in leadership positions, especially who have been in that role for a long period of time. Could be, Fortune 500 company. If you don't know what's possible with technology, I don't care if you're buying an off-the-shelf product, right? You brought, Pipedrive or HubSpot or, some type of lead gen app, or you're building a product that you want to commercialize and take to market. If you don't understand what you can do and what the market expects, then you're going to fall short in what you shoot for, right? Like so it's basically you might build something or implement something that is already behind the curve and you're making that investment. And no disrespect to all the wonderful service providers who are out there, but they work on a projectized basis and they're there to look out for the interests of their business. And if you,
They're
to
selling
your,
you a technology.
exactly.
Period.
So I think, Tom, you mentioned something about, if you don't know the question to ask, right? If you don't know what to shoot for, you're going to get exactly what you ask for.
I love
And I think that 80% of the delivery partners in the technology realm, and this includes marketing and other places, marketing is actually not included because if you're investing in digital marketing, usually they have to demonstrate outcomes, right, for you to keep working together, right? But in the tech space with, SaaS products or custom software development or things like that, they're
They're
putting the
demonstrating
business
bells and
owner.
whistles, right? So it's hard to
Exactly.
measure.
They put the business owner in the role of, decision maker and strategist, and that if the decision is wrong or the strategy fails, they're not on the hook for those same outcomes, right? And so it's, if you make a bad decision and you have to pivot 5 times, a lot of companies don't care as long as, they're still getting paid. And this is
Still
just
they're getting their licensing fees, right?
exactly. So it's really, really critical. Um, Less about what the solution is and more about, as a business owner, are you making decisions with all of the facts and everything in front of you, or are you making decisions with blinders on, or, do you really know what technology can do for your business today, right? Or do for your customers today? And that's where I think the biggest gap is. If you get that right and you start asking the right questions, then picking a delivery partner is really not the hard part. It's figuring out what to ask for and where you want to put your hard-earned money.
Yeah. And let's get into exactly like you're such a great example of this. And that is I've known you for a long time, right? And your core competency, you're a brilliant person, right? And the hard part about being a brilliant person is that you can apply it to so many different types and sizes of companies and everything like that.
Sure.
And oftentimes that's very difficult to hone and focus that attention onto a specific group. And you made a conscious effort to say, hey, the majority of people that I work with, like me being you, Christina,
Sure.
is those that are invested in SaaS, like
Yep.
in some type of SaaS product, right?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
and you
Yep.
don't do that because of even like the concept of marketing. You're doing that because I can't be the answer to everyone. And if I'm going to be a
Right.
pro and I'm going to actually build a business off of distinguishing factors, differentiation, I
Yep.
must commit myself to a target audience that I call myself a professional in, right? Is
Sure.
that true?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Right. And so like
Well,
let's
you're
bring it
also eating your own dog food, right? You're basically saying, this is my strategy. This is where I want to be.
Yes. Yes. So like, niching down, if we're talking about niching down, so critical in anybody's growth strategy. So if you're early stage and you're trying to figure out where you fit in the market, um, even if you niche down in the wrong place, you'll find out it's wrong way faster and you can pivot than trying to be all things to all people. I think for me, choosing SaaS was easy because one of the things that I love the most, I am just a complete geek for creating things, right? And building things. And in my spare time, I'm remodeling the house. Like I like to build things and create. This is something that is really rewarding, right? Because you're working with leaders that have, already created something, but when you
You're
start
helping
out,
implement their vision. You're literally creating
yeah,
something.
yeah,
This is going to be the future state, and I'm going to help you get there. And this is what it's going to look like, right? So that's very
absolutely.
rewarding, right? To see it.
Absolutely. But
And
what
yeah,
I
go to
see, and I've experienced this myself, like when you start a business, there's an element of vulnerability there, right? When you get going.
absolutely.
Your old self dies, you start something new. Is this going to make it? Once you've experienced a bit of success and you feel like you're not a complete schmuck and you're providing for your family, you're reaching your goals, all things are going good. And you decide to build a product now and take that to market, but now you've established yourself as this like go-to person, this
Mhm.
reliable person in your business network, and you have all these people that know you. I would argue, and what I have seen is the vulnerability is higher, right? You're putting your personal brand out there now, and you're putting your personal brand behind this product. And it's
Absolutely.
very, very hard for people to feel confident and take that next step and take that next leap. And it's a completely different business model. The financials are different. The way that you fund that particular product, there's a lot of different options for um, grants and, self-funding and talking to investors and thinking about exit strategy and all of this stuff. So it's really scary. People jump and then they freeze, right? Because they're like, well, we built it. Are we ready to launch? And that goes for um, you know companies that are investing in things that they're using for their own team as well. I'm working with a regional uh, heavy duty towing company, right? A couple dozen locations, they're growing and they're looking at different technology solutions to modernize the business and streamline operations. And they have a huge team of, regional managers and people that if they make the wrong decision, that impacts the entire organization, right? It impacts everything. And so that pressure around decision making or taking your company down an unknown path, it's usually not about the money. It's about the reputation of that leader and that sense of paralysis that comes
That's a self.
with, yeah,
Yeah, so
putting,
let me ask you a question.
yeah,
You have tackled a lot of industry resistance. Give us
yeah,
like a one story about like tow trucks, right? It's not that industry. It wouldn't necessarily be an early adopter, but I'm not saying to use that story. But
sure,
give
sure.
us like a story about how you industry resistance, how you've tackled it, and what the results have been.
Okay, so let's see here. One story. So there's industry resistance, right? So I would say a really good example to this, um, best and easiest example might have been when I was still at Carry International.
Hmm.
Um, we were developing software, mobile apps, things that were very much ahead of their time, but the industry at the time, many high net worth individuals travel was being booked and managed by a handler or an administrative assistant or a personal assistant, somebody like that. And they really wanted to own that relationship, right? They didn't want to have there be an app or something sitting between them and the person for whom they were employed, right? And so I think that that anecdote can be applied to just about anything. When our value is tied to performing a certain set of tasks, and those tasks are automated or augmented, or I am one rung removed now from the person who validates the value that I bring, that is a very threatening position for anybody to be in any industry. And so typically we approach that by addressing the psychological factors of the people who are trying to block the adoption of the product. And this is kind of a counterintuitive approach, but we get into career pathing, for example. We'll go into an organization and say, let's look at all your people. We value your people. We're not trying to put people out of jobs, but their roles might look like something different in the future. They can do new things, they can learn. And so we position, we help the company write the narrative and manage that storytelling effort throughout the transition so that people can see themselves in that future state, right? And that goes back to the visioning exercise. What does this look like? When we start having those conversations with leaders and they can say, well, it kind of looks like this, and and this problem goes away and that problem goes away, then we dive into, okay, well, what does that look like for your team? When their roles
What I'm
change.
hearing is a central theme throughout this
Yeah.
fascinating conversation. It's all about defining your future state and having that
It
vision.
is. That is 100% it. And another analogy that I like to use, if either of you have ever done like therapy, right? Or somebody that's done therapy, you go
I know,
in.
in fact, everyone I know needs therapy.
Okay, right.
Or
So you go in your first session, and the therapist doesn't just sit down and say, like, tell me about the most traumatic thing in your life that's ever happened to you. Like, you don't start there, right? You kind of work in backwards. And I think that's kind of what this process looks like. This visioning process is talk to me about what this looks like. And then you drill into the details and you kind of reverse engineer. And before you know it, you have a strategic roadmap of all the things that need to happen to get you where you want to be. Same thing if you ever work with a trainer, right? This is what I want to look like. This is what I want my lipid panel to come back to be. It all begins with not just a goal, but a very specific outcome that you can visualize. And if someone's struggling to visualize that, that's okay. That's what I'm there for. I'll help you visualize what it could be. Because I think with tech, that's the biggest challenge is people don't know how to visualize it because they don't know what's possible. Nobody has the kind of time to just sit and test apps all day, right? And watch demos and do those types of things. So sometimes you need someone who will say, well, have you ever considered this? Because this is a high probability we could do this. I know you were shooting for this, but you could actually be up here for the same amount of investment. And that's, anyway, those are a couple of
Tom, why don't you take us home? We got time for like one more great question. A little pressure for you to come up with a good question.
That's
and then we're going to wrap
I
up.
think the main thing for most owners or leaders is taking that extra time, and not just once, but repeatedly, in clearly defining what the next steps are going to be. And you can't bring in anyone like Christina or myself or Adam or anybody else into your business until that's clearly defined. Almost all the time, you're going to waste money and time unless that definition is there, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
So what Christina's saying, and she does such a good job with any company that's involved in that type of SaaS, is she's dedicated her entire life towards becoming a thought leader and an execution expert in that particular category. But even when she has those core competencies, I think the point here is this: take the extra time to define exactly what you want. Technology can come and go. Technology can evolve. Technology can change. But the only thing technology is going to be used for is by getting you one step closer to the defined future state that you want to be. So, Christine, I'm going to open it up to you. You've talked about several things today on the podcast that can be extremely helpful to our small business community. what's the one take home that you want everybody to remember about defining that future state, and about bringing other outsourced partners on like yourself, so that we choose and select the right ones to be a part of the team based on the exercise that we talked about today?
Absolutely. So again, I just want to reinforce it, it's not enough for you to define your why. You want to be able to visualize where you see your current business or maybe some new venture if you're deciding to make an investment in a new product that plays nicely with your business. And just to give yourself some grace and understand that as a small business owner, we know you do a lot by yourself, right? Everybody's wearing multiple hats. But you also have to recognize that because you are in that self-constructed bubble for so much of your career, you're going to have blind spots. And you want to surround yourself with people that are going to really not only help you define that vision, but challenge your own preconceived notions of what you can be, what you can create, right? And that is how you're going to get to the biggest and best outcomes and ROI for any kind of technology investment, is making sure that you're shooting, you're not shooting too low. You're shooting high enough to get you where you want to be.
Well, folks, our challenge for you today is to take some time, make sure that you define what your future state may be. If you're involved in some type of company that has some type of SaaS, please get a hold of Christina. She is an amazing force in the industry. Christina, how do people get a hold of you?
Best way, you can check out the website, www.execusense.com. It's kind of a funny spelling, but I'm sure it'll be linked in this podcast. Or you can email me directly at crobel at execusense.com.
All right.
Outstanding.
Awesome.
That was great conversation. Thank you for being on.
Thanks for having me, guys. Talk to you soon.
Christina,
Bye.
thanks a lot. We'll catch up.
All right. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.